Khalid and I have been friends, and we've gone over the hump in terms of formalities. And we thought that instead of, at the suggestion of some of the participants here, we thought instead of a regular speech, we'll engage in a conversation that will help us truly articulate from the heart our feelings about this beautiful partnership, this brotherhood. And for all of us in India, it's a matter of great delight that His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, has led one of the largest delegations from Saudi Arabia to India. We've had the Strategic Partnership Council meeting where both the leaders, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and the Prime Minister of Bharat, have held extensive bilateral discussions, and which has just concluded an hour ago. And for both of us, it is a matter of pride and happiness that such a wonderful galaxy of business leaders have taken it upon themselves to take this engagement forward. A very, very warm welcome to you, Khalid Bhai, and to all of our friends from Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
Piyush, let me join you, first of all, in greeting and welcoming our colleagues and dear friends from the business community, as well as representatives from our two governments for this engagement that has been ongoing for, as time immortal, thousands of years, but certainly in our recent time there has been an accelerated engagement between our two countries, both at the government level and the private sector level. And once again, as you mentioned, it is climaxing with the summit and state visit by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince to your great country, India, Bharat, as we're starting to call it, which we, of course, have always known it as such, and it is part of your constitution. But before going too far in the business matters of the day, I think it's incumbent on me as a friend and very much family with you and every Indian to extend a number of congratulations. And I have to control myself because this could be a long list of things to congratulate you on. But I think today, where the whole world is focused on one of the most successful G20 summits, truly. I don't say it to make you feel good. As part of your family, I can tell you that we are really proud. Never did we achieve consensus and adopt a declaration on day one of the summit. Usually, day two, sometimes there is no declaration, and the host country issues its own statement. And it was not an easy declaration. We know the world is facing a lot of challenges of all types, but the leadership of India, not just by the Prime Minister, which of course is the ultimate leadership, but throughout, including yourself, who have led and hosted the Commerce and Investment Ministerial session so ably. The other thing I want to congratulate both of us on is that Saudi Arabia and India are the leading G20 countries in the recent past, since COVID, in terms of our economic performance. Both countries grew at the fastest rate last year and continue to do extremely well, while everybody else is worried about a recession. The question is India and Saudi Arabia overheating? And do we have the capacity to continue to grow at this fast pace, which I am confident of? I am sure, and anybody who looks at the trajectory of all of the macro trends, as mentioned by His Excellency the President of FICI. The stars are aligned for India and Saudi Arabia to continue the pace of development, and it's fueled really by all the right factors, as we will mention today. So for my friends and colleagues from Saudi Arabia, you may be impressed by what has already happened in India, but I think this is only the beginning. The beginning. This is a trend that's only going to accelerate. And for those who are waiting for the right moment, every day you delay, you are losing an opportunity, because India is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow, and it's not a matter of whether India will be number 3 in 2027. It is, in the next decade, where is India going to be? And I can tell you it's going to be in a very lofty place, not only in terms of the macro number of GDP, but all other factors in terms of productivity, technology, innovation, balance of payment, strong fiscal, trade, and other indicators. So we're very proud to be partners and hopefully seen here as contributors to this great success. I mentioned last night that in Saudi Arabia we're also proud and indeed celebrated when you landed your lunar mission on the South Pole, the first country ever to achieve that. You know, and I mentioned that, you know, for India, the sky is the limit, is both figurative and literal, because you're really reaching high into the skies, and my colleague, the Minister of Telecommunication and Space, is very much eyeing India as the key partner as we initiate our own very ambitious space program. But we're also impressed with the reforms that have been taking place. And I should congratulate all of you in the government. Bureaucracy is a difficult thing to wrestle with. I can tell you from my own experience, every government has its share, and we should not be ashamed of admitting that each country has its own bureaucratic twists that we have to fix. And India being, you know, a country of 1 billion plus citizens with its own democratic system, state system, as well as federal, and the division of powers, and inheriting a lot of bureaucracy from the British, who we always remind them that they innovated bureaucracy and invented it for the rest of us. I think you've been doing an amazing job of a journey that I'm sure is going to continue under the able leadership of the Prime Minister and a great government that you're a member of. So this is really the setting today. I think this is past an inflection point for India, underpinned by many success factors, which I hope this conversation will lead us into. But I will also wait for your response and maybe questions before I tell you why Saudi Arabia has taken off and offers our Indian friends and colleagues from the private sectors great opportunities to accelerate and expand the successes that are being made here in India.
Thank you, Khalid. In fact, at the Strategic Partnership Council meeting this morning, a number of areas were identified. And when we were hearing about the breakout sessions and the various subjects that were discussed in this meeting, this conference here, I see that there is synergy in thinking, even amongst our business persons, from what we in government are thinking. So there was talk about expanding the startup bridge between the two countries amongst our leaders. I heard that's been one of the subjects of discussion through the two-day conference that we've had here. I believe food security, or our partnership in minerals, our partnership in education, our partnership in tourism, a potential that we have in the film industry, in culture, taking forward the Bollywood story between the two countries. So many areas that we can collaborate in. In fact, both of us are the two fastest growing economies in the world today. We've both got almost a similar ranking in the World Bank in terms of ease of doing business. Saudi Arabia's, and it has been discontinued after 2020, but the last rank that Saudi Arabia had was 62, India was 63. So we are jostling for the ranking. In a way, we are so much aligned with each other, we have so much synergy. What do you think it will take to cross the hump and significantly bump up investments on both sides? Because with investment, I think trade will follow. And as our two leaders in 2019 had decided when they launched the Strategic Partnership Council, that we should be looking at least $100 billion investment coming in, and India being relatively looking for larger pools of capital is a great investment opportunity. So what do we do to take this to the next level?
Well, I think we've already started on that journey. Of course, a lot has happened since those targets, and I don't want to call them ambitions or aspirations. They're really targets that were based on specific projects that had estimates to underpin that 100 billion target. I think a lot has happened. Of course, COVID, supply chain, the acceleration of energy transition has all, in a way, reprioritized where capital is going globally. There's been a lot of nationalism around the world where companies are introducing industrial policy and pulling their multinational companies to reshore some of the investments in their own countries. So we cannot do in this decade and in the next decade what we did in decades past, where we waited for the multinational companies from the Northern Hemisphere to come and invest in our countries. I think we have to think of a new model. And our leaders know this. They are taking the bull by the horn. We are blessed by many things, Piyush, in Saudi Arabia and India. And I think one of the most important blessings we have is two of the world's most energetic, effective, visionary leaders. Prince Mohammed bin Salman, our Crown Prince, and Prime Minister Modi of India. And when they talk, you could see 10 steps ahead. So when the Prime Minister was very supportive of the Crown Prince effort to join the BRICS, okay, it's not a talking club. It's not just joining the BRICS for the sake of joining BRICS. It's because we realize that going forward, the center of gravity of the global economy has already moved to the global south, and I think we are a key anchor of the global south. I think we realize that we have companies today in nations like India and Saudi Arabia that are global champions. They're no longer national champions, importing technology, know-how, and licensing brands in. We're proud of what our Saudi companies represented here in this audience are doing internationally, and we're just as amazed and proud of Indian companies that today are leading globally. And I think we're also going to be fueled not just by our energy and capital, which will continue to drive us forward, but I think the most important driver going forward is going to be our talent, our human resources. And many people are saying it's no longer simply the economies of scale that is going to be making the difference, it's also the economies of skill. And I think you look at the combination of Saudi Arabia and India. We have scale, we have skill in our human resources and our management capabilities. We have capital, and we have, as I mentioned, the long-term vision that will align all of the resources we have. So opening the doors of communication, being clear with the messaging that we are getting all the way from the top, you and I and our colleagues in the two governments, translating that into policy, from policy to regulation, and then continuing the bureaucracy busting that we are both doing in our countries, 62, 63, in the global ease of doing business and attractiveness to the private sector is not good enough for us. We both want to be top 10, if not top 5, in terms of attractiveness. So that's where the trajectory where we're going. But I mean, you name it, this powerful combination that has manifested itself not only in the Strategic Council today. One thing I wanted to congratulate you on in my opening statement was the Prime Minister, our Crown Prince, and other global leader launching this economic corridor. This is going to be a historical moment. I mean, people talk about the Silk Road of thousands of years ago, the Spice Road from India through the Arabian Peninsula. This is going to be more significant, and it's going to be relevant because it's about new energies, it's about data, it's about connectivity, as I mentioned, human resources, aviation routes, and it's about aligning countries that are also of the same mind and of the same vision. And I think the next step is just to make sure that these powerful partners of ours, of yours and mine, the private sector, fully understand what we have ready for them in terms of opportunities, regulations, enablers. They match with each other. They need to find the right match. And we need to clear the road for them, and I think great things will happen.
I think it's wonderful, Khalid, when you speak about all that we can collaborate in and work together where we complement each other. Another area which I'm sure must have been a topic of discussion through the day today is the NEOM City. I'm extremely excited about the project that you're setting up, the new city that you're setting up at a cost of $500 billion. And the very concept of having a 100% clean energy driven entire city, designed in a manner to be very user friendly, leveraging the huge landmass, the coastline that you have. I think that's an area where India could contribute significantly in helping design that, helping construct that, and helping also man it or developing businesses around it, particularly given the strengths we've collected or the strengths we've garnered in the last few years in the technology field. Do you see India collaborating with Saudi Arabia to help NEOM come up faster, better, smarter?
Yeah, well, the good news, Piyush, is it's already happening. We'd like to scale it up and increase it. I mean, if you think in terms of just infrastructure building and contracting, Indian companies are already active there. At the master contractor level, we have Larsen & Toubro, L&T. And last night at dinner, I met 4 or 5 companies that are working with them and for them, ultimately for NEOM and Saudi Arabia to build this visionary, and it's not a city. I mean, NEOM is the size of many European countries, and it's going to redefine livability. It's going to redefine many economic sectors. You will be happy to know that that one of the emerging technologies of communication, which is low orbit satellite, being pioneered by OneWeb, led by Bharat Telecommunication and Mr. Sunil Mittal, is already a partner with NEOM, one of many partners with NEOM in the technology field. I visited Bangalore more than 10 years ago, and I went into the campuses of your technology companies, the Emphasis and the Wipros, and I saw with my own eyes the capabilities of the companies as well as of the people. And these are not call centers for those who haven't been. These are high-tech engines that are powering global companies around the world. And many of them today have tens of thousands of people working for Saudi Arabia and in Saudi Arabia. So they're going to help us with smart cities, not only in NEOM. Riyadh is going to be one of the top 10 in terms of GDP. Its population will grow by a factor of 50–60%. And we need to not only enlist the innovation and capabilities of Indian companies that are active in smart city design, but we also need to learn what you have done here in India. I know Delhi from 20 years ago, and I see today great progress in managing the city in a smart way. And I think cities in Saudi Arabia and India are going to continue to work and climb that technology curve very fast.
I'm sure a lot of businesses would be very keen and interested to participate in that. In fact, one thing that I'd like to share with you is a study I recently read about the returns that investors have got from investments coming into India. This was a study on the top 500 companies listed in the stock exchange of India, Japan, US, and China. And India was the only country amongst these four which had given a 20% CAGR, return on investment, for 20 years. Almost 23% of Indian companies amongst the top 500 gave a 20% CAGR for 20 years in a row. And I think the closest to that was the US at about 7%, and probably Japan and China at 1%. That's the level of positivity that Indian investment, given its large demography, the billion-plus people, aspirational, looking for a better quality of life, with their basic needs all taken care of. Clearly it's demand-driven, clearly it's cost-driven, very, very high level of purchasing power in the people of India. In this situation, how do we accelerate investments coming in from Saudi Arabia? Last I saw, the total FDI from Saudi Arabia to India in the last 20 years was just about $4 billion, of which also we saw 2.8 billion coming in during COVID in one or two large investments. What do you think India needs to do, Khalid, to up the ante? Is it more an outreach? Is it deeper engagement or communication? Or can we from government, we have a person who's recently joined Invest India to head up Invest India after 30 years of experience in Intel. So comes with long credibility and long years in building Intel in India into a very power-packed large corporation. So we have now Invest India looking at becoming the voice of India across the world, both for trade and investment. What would you like to recommend to us in terms of what we need to do to reach out to Saudi investors, to reach out to not only your sovereign wealth funds, but also possibly other corporations in Saudi Arabia to attract them to India?
Well, I think what we're doing today is a good first step because we're talking to about 1,000 people who are in this conference, who are very influential from both sides. And in addition to you talking to them about the opportunities in India and the great fundamentals you just mentioned, they've been networking among themselves and comparing notes. So that's a good first step. And I think it's important to highlight the success stories on both sides. You know, I was happy last night to meet a good friend of mine. I see him in many occasions, Mr. Yusuf Ali, who was talking about Lulu markets and what they've done. And I remember when I was in Aramco, and he came to me not long ago, and he said, I want to open my 7th or 8th Lulu market in Aramco. And we said, are you sure you can live to our very high standards? We're high standards in everything, including in hypermarkets, and he surprised us on the positive side by how well he does. But last night he was telling me that he is on his way to getting 100 hypermarkets in Saudi Arabia, despite the headwinds of e-commerce and and that it is also very profitable. But I think what he was telling me is that Saudi Arabia is one of the easiest places to do business, that he's able to replicate from town to town, multiply his business, and he feels, and I know there are some Saudis in that business that cannot match what he does. So we need success stories like this at all sectors. But he just happens to be the last one who talked to me last night about his success. In my opinion, and I'm sure you know this from your illustrious career, that success begets success. When you tell good stories about investors in India from Saudi Arabia or elsewhere that have come, located their business quickly, have been able to get healthy returns and be well received and treated on a level playing field like we're doing in Saudi and like you're doing in India for your investors, that those investments will multiply. And I think, and this is maybe a discussion that we should have in our own discussions, but I think the more we provide a regulatory framework that is visible to these investors, I have no doubt that a Saudi investor will be treated in India, with the most favored nation treatment. Because as we heard from the Prime Minister and His Excellency today, Saudi Arabia is a strategic partner for the kingdom. But underpinning that by agreements that we can post on our websites and say, if you go to India, you're going to get a level playing field and a most favored nation treatment. That will go a long way to ensuring that the legal firms and the consultants will not slow down these investments because of fear of facing some unfavorable treatment. So I hope we can work on this on both sides and create that transparency and clarity. And my last point, Piyush, and you mentioned it in your opening remarks, is as great as the big corporates that we have in the room and that we're proud of, I think the future lies with the young people, with the startups, with the innovators, with the entrepreneurs. And we need to make sure that we don't get all of our attention given to the big national champions and the multinational companies that are from India and Saudi Arabia. And we spend sort of a lot of time and water the fertile ground of entrepreneurship, because in 10, 15 years, some of them will be the national champions of our two nations.
I think that's a brilliant way to put it, and I have two thoughts that come to my mind. On both sides, how we can accelerate this story. May I invite Saudi Arabia, particularly your sovereign wealth funds, to come and set up or first consider, make a visit maybe to Gandhinagar, have a look at our gift city, the Gujarat International Financial Services Center. And you will appreciate that we've really brought together a much, much more simplified regulatory mechanism there. There's one regulator for all regulation. We've brought in tax breaks and made it very, very easy, seamless to move funds in and out of Gift City. Maybe a good idea if on your part you could consider deputing a team. I'm happy to send the Gift City officials to Saudi Arabia to have a conversation with you and your colleagues. And maybe if you could consider setting up operations in Gift City, it could truly give a leg up on the flow of investments to India. On my side, I'm inclined to consider, and we have the president of FICCI, Mr. Subrakant Panda right here, the SG Pathak, I have Invest India CEO Nivruti Rai. So all the stakeholders who matter are here. If we receive a little support from the Saudi government, I'm happy to suggest that FICCI set up an office in partnership with Invest India and my Commerce Ministry, where we'll depute a couple of officials from the government also, who will be dedicated to work in an investment and trade promotion office situated in Riyadh. And from there, handhold, and they have their linkages back home to India, both with the private sector through FICCI, to the government, through our government officials, and Invest India playing the role of creating that bridge. They can work to both encourage startup ecosystem to start talking to each other. We had a wonderful delegation of your young startups who attended the engagement group that India launched, the Startup 20. And I must thank you for the huge contribution they did to making that a success. Thank you. And maybe this could be the way to kickstart a greater flow of trade and investments, also to see how we can double our trade, which is currently at about $52 billion. Can we be more ambitious and take it to $100 billion? Can we look at more balanced trade between the two countries? And then can we look at India becoming the provider of food security to Saudi Arabia, while Saudi Arabia helps us provide more security in energy, oil, or in fertilizers. So it's really a win-win, and as you rightly said, a complementary relationship.
Great ideas, Piyush. I think I will match your offer and commit today that we will open an office in India for investment facilitation. And when we talk about investment facilitation, we're talking bi-directional. I always remind my team that our investment offices abroad need to be also facilitators for our outbound investments, understanding the market, getting them to talk to your ministry, to FICCI, to any other regulatory organization here in India, and be able to access the market. Within the next few weeks, I commit that we will send a strong delegation and contingent to Gift City to look at where and what to have there, including potentially our own representative office for the Ministry of Investment, whether it should be Mumbai, here in Delhi, or in Gift City. We're open. We just want to be in the right place to engage with the stakeholders, here in India. We will offer to create both a physical and a digital space, knowing how important startups are to you. We will offer you, sort of a place where you can set up this startup bridge in Riyadh and be able to access not only the market and partners on entrepreneurship from Saudi Arabia, but we will work with our VCs and hopefully in the next few weeks create a joint agreement between our National Venture Capital Fund and their counterpart here in India to channel venture capital and funding to startups that have the opportunity to leverage our two nations and our two markets. And I think matchmaking is a continuous process. No matter how successful this week is, yesterday and today, and the continuation of this week, as people continue to talk, we need to make sure we continue to nurture, because people from Saudi Arabia are more comfortable doing business in India if they are with the right partners in India, and vice versa. So we want to make sure that Invest Saudi, Invest in India, FICCI, and all of them have a fluid and dynamic process of introducing businesses and entrepreneurs to a number of their counterparts to select for themselves who they want to partner with. And I assure you that the PIF, of course, is our flagship investment engine, is keen on India. You mentioned a few $1 billion that have been invested since COVID. It is led by the PIF into some of your multinationals. So that is going to accelerate. In the previous years, they were also reliant on the Vision Fund, which had channeled some of the PIF money to some of the startups, but I believe they're going to lead that directly going forward. But I would also take the opportunity, Piyush, and just say it's not just NEOM, and it's not just Indian companies bringing their great capabilities in terms of engineering, construction, material supply. Saudi Arabia is a great platform for Indian companies to access the broader market around us. Saudi Arabia is truly physically and strategically, and from a policy, political, soft power, is a bridge to a much bigger market, which is Middle East, Africa, and Europe. We have, I don't want to say, it's not just abundant, it's almost infinite access to renewable energy at the lowest cost. And of course, our renewable energy companies and champions will invest in India to the maximum extent possible to produce renewables and hydrogen. But ultimately, if you're trying to compete with global producers and access global markets, you have to go to the place that has the combination of available land, great location, lower cost, abundant energy, natural resources. Saudi Arabia ticks all of those boxes for Indian companies that have matured and addressed the local market here in India and want to go abroad further with a step change in their cost structure. You will be amazed, and you will find us in the Ministry of Investment working with you to give your companies a boost to further drive the Indian economy by Indian companies continuing to go global.
Absolutely true. In fact, many areas that come to mind where we can look at working together. For example, while information technology or digital growth is one very good area where we can expand, I think your investments into our food processing industry in India can be a great driver of agricultural food security in the Saudi Arabian region. More importantly, we can look at pharma sector. That's another sector where Saudi Arabia can actually become the base not only for the Middle East but also for all of Africa, large parts of Europe, from where we can expand our footprint, and a partnership or a greater, deeper understanding between the regulatory authorities of Saudi Arabia and India can help the health and pharma industry of both countries grow faster. In fact, that's one of the areas I'm in dialogue with my colleague, the Commerce Minister, to see whether we could have MRA on pharma, which would allow easier access for Indian medicines into Saudi Arabia, which will then encourage Indian pharma companies to also invest. My own sense is once people see the market, then it excites them into investing into the country also. Similarly, in my humble view, India with 1.4 billion population and 2/3 of them are in the working age. Our average size of our population is still under 30 years. And for the next 30 years, we will continue to be an under 30 average age population. So 30 years, we'll continue to have an under 30 Indian population. And we aspire to add in our Amrit Kal, that is until 2047, when we celebrate 100 years of independence, we aspire to grow from a $3.5 trillion economy to a $35 trillion economy. And we've set the groundwork, the foundation to achieve that over the last few years. So taking care of all the basic needs, be it food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, education, with all the basics being taken care of. Today we have a whole hungry not as in the stomach, aspirational young population, wanting the good things of life, digitally connected, having all the tools and the skill sets at their command to contribute, as do 2.7 million Indians who contribute to the Saudi economy. I think this is the moment in history that beckons us, and if we miss this opportunity, I think we'll only have ourselves to blame. History will not forgive us, Khalid, if we don't grab this opportunity. The leaders believe in each other. The leaders trust each other. I saw the chemistry between His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman and Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi over lunch and in the meetings. It truly is our moment, as you rightly said, in the sun, in the moon, our moment in the sky. I invite all our entrepreneurs, all the business persons to go for it. And I assure all of you that you will find in Khalid and me and our other colleagues in the government a helping hand, a supporting hand, and a friendly hand. And our two offices, the office that Saudi Arabia will open in India and our Invest India FICCI Government of India office that we'll open in Riyadh, will work to actually make this dream a reality. So warm invitation to all of you. Thank you.
Piyush, allow me also to conclude, because I've been told we need to wrap up. That as inspiring as your remarks have been, and they truly are, inspiring, because they have the passion, they have the facts, and I cannot disagree with them. But I'll also tell you, not to take anything away, that you're preaching to the converts. We are, and I am, and when I talk privately to my Saudi friends, we are big believers in India. We are not only your biggest, when you succeed, big things or small things, we celebrate in Saudi Arabia. I truly say it, we celebrate because we believe you are an extension of us, geographically, culturally, economically. Compatibility and complementarity are rare to find together. Some people are complementary, some people are compatible. You're both. When we look at our culture, look at our complexion. You could be, if you dress like this, you'll go for a Saudi. and if I dress like you, I will go for an Indian. And it's not an accident. It's not by chance. We are essentially the same people. We think alike. I mean, you talk about the 2.7 million people. They are part of an 11 or 12 million expatriate community in Saudi Arabia. But I have not looked at the statistics carefully, but I can tell you, my impression and my experience over many, many decades of working with Indians in Saudi Arabia is that they are the most productive, They are the fastest learner. They are the most diverse. You find them in high tech. You find them in healthcare. You find them in engineering. You find them in banking. You find them in every adaptable, quick learners, loyal, and very, very ethical, which is, I think we've learned from our professional lives, is very, very important. So values and ethics is very, very important. Now, we take 2.7 million that we know that are essentially in our lives, and you multiply it to get to 1.4 billion, and you can only imagine the potential you have in this great nations. So we're part of your team, and we believe you are part of our team. I think we just need to translate everything that they have discussed in their engagements, everything that you and I see and say in our discussion, into action, into spending on the ground. Trade is great, and I want to take the 50 plus or minus billion to 100 billion. By the way, Saudi Arabia and India established diplomatic relations immediately after your independence in 1947. So when you celebrate 100 years of independence, we will be, as Saudis, celebrating 100 years of the modern relationship with India, and which is a continuation of 5,000 years of civilizations between our peninsula, Arabian Peninsula, anchored by Saudi Arabia today, and the subcontinent that is India and Bharat, which, as I mentioned, we're so proud of. I would like to invite our Indian colleagues to come to Saudi often. I would like to invite them to come to the FII conference. It's the world's biggest investment conference. Will be taking place 24th to 27th of October in Riyadh, led by the FII Institute, which is a spin-off from the PIF. Crown Prince personally oversees this investment conference, so it is when everything globally is discussed, but also where Saudi Arabian opportunities are discussed. I would like to invite Indian companies to consider Riyadh to be your home, your regional headquarters. We have a program for this, and we will do all facilitations to allow you to come and have the greatest incentives and benefits to be located in Riyadh. And of course, all of this will be driven by yourself, my good friend Piyush. Thank you very much for allowing us to throw our speeches away.
I think this was a good comment.
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Thank you.